I don't I don't know about you, but are you using Windows 11 yet?
I am on two of my computers. The one I have at where I study. Then my laptop and my main computer is Windows 11. But at my parents', which I am at now, I have Windows 10 still.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's the thing. I absolutely would have loved to stick with Windows 10 as long as possible, but I knew that it was going to lose support eventually. And yeah, I just sort of bit the bullet, jumped over to Windows 11, but I was just like, no, I'm not having this start menu. That is, no, I wrote my own GUI using AutoHotkey. Because I'd done that before. If I click my two mouse buttons together, I get this like really small row of buttons that pops up around my cursor, which was really cool. Like I was using this for a lot of different functions, especially when I'm programming. It's kind of hard to see, but all these buttons in the middle here are like take whatever's on my clipboard and paste it in between parentheses, or paste it with a open close parentheses on the end as if it was a function, or like space equals space, whatever's on my clipboard. I can put parentheses around things or comment stuff out, all that. And I really just scaled that up and added a like pictures. So these pictures here are all made in Photoshop, and then I just have them linked up to run programs or other macros. Anyway, enough about that. I will talk about hotkeys endlessly. Let's talk more about the game. Yeah, this is I'm really enjoying it. I keep getting stuck on this last level, but
if you press G, you will get another one.
Yes.
Because they're all procedurally generated.
Yes.
But I found out that most people will just not want to do that because then they feel like a failure. So yeah.
It's not even that I'm avoiding doing that. Oh, I'm just gonna catch up on chat here. Yeah, Artemis, I agree. I would have. I stuck with Windows 7 for the longest time. Like I did not want to upgrade to Windows 10, and I'm glad because there was still so much about Windows 10 that's still broken. There's still so much about Windows 11 that's broken. It's a cool idea to have the timer slider like that. Makes it frame the important part of the screen really well. I think that the bar around the screen is your progress though, right? That's not a it's not a timer. Yeah.
Yeah, it's progress.
When I first started playing the game, I thought it was a timer. I thought that, especially because you have this like gentle pulse on it, it's like moving up and down a little. I thought that it was going to fill out and I needed to visit all the star points quickly before it like drained away.
Oh, yeah, I haven't heard that feedback before actually, but it makes sense when you're saying it.
Yeah, I mean I can imagine a version of this that is much more frantic and kind of like forces you to play really rapidly, but I do appreciate the sort of like, yeah, it's just a turn-based experience. Like,
yeah, overall, I'm very happy with where the design landed. The first idea was just to like have, because the jam itself was just like, okay, you should make a game with a main mechanic and the secondary mechanic that can be used as progression. That was kind of it. So we were really free to do whatever we wanted. And I got this idea of like, traveling between stars. So I started to, because my first idea was like, okay, so you have to explore this galaxy, like, and you've got like limited fuel, and you need to explore as far as you can. Oh, I see. You got
you did finally finish
the game now. I had a lot of fun writing the lore, or I guess what you can call it, for this game too, with the space paste.
This list is neither exhaustive or truthful.
fun fact: the CEO character is actually based off a random ass character model I made in Blender 7 years ago.
That's funny.
And I haven't really used that character since. But I was like, I want an alien. Wait, I have made an alien. I don't have to come up with a new design. I can just reuse this and actually make it pretty.
Yeah, just to explain to Gingerbread, who is here joining us late, you lose if you see how these ships are now like targeted on me. If I collide with them, then I lose. Or if otherwise, like I'm put in a position where if I move into a position where that they are going to occupy, like if I go here and here, I'm trying to create a situation where there's an example. I can sort of indefinitely avoid these two guys here. Oh, okay, but yeah, that one moved into the same position as I did, so that's what makes you lose. And your objective is to sort of like visit all the dots without colliding. But what I was going to do is I wanted to open that up in Paint, because it's funny since you mentioned the Alien CEO. The entire time I was playing, I thought that those two dots in the middle were the eyes. I'm only now realizing that the eyes are on the edge.
Oh, yeah, no, it's the nose.
Yeah.
Tiny face.
Yep. Well, you know, it's an alien, right?
True. Yeah, like, to be fair, the eyes are where you are, like, you're expecting the ears to be there, so you aren't really looking for the eyes. Yeah. That's funny.
But yeah, so that it's definitely like it builds the challenge up in a neat way. I can definitely see ways that you could add like layers of complication to this. Have you thought at all about like making updates or a post-gen version of this?
Yeah, the main idea I've been thinking of that I want to try is to add a different type of ship. That's like probably going to be a black ship or something. That's like it works differently in that it only moves every second turn. But there will be special like other or differently styled paths between some stars that only that ship can travel on. So like it can take shortcuts that you can, but at the same time it's much slower.
Right, I see.
And I think that would make from some, like, it would add depth and content without adding like without removing the simplicity. Like I've gotten some feedback that like, oh, it would be cool if like you could buy a power-up or get a power-up that can make you like escape from a situation where you're trapped. But that would remove a lot from the like puzzle element and just add visual clutter to the UI and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that there are some small things, like when a ship is aggroed onto you, having it like flashing slightly. It's not something that I picked up on immediately. I wonder if like the ships have like a black outline on them. I wonder if instead of pulsing the color of the ship, if you pulse the outline, maybe that would be a little more clear.
Yeah, that would be smart. I had a problem with the like pulse was stronger before, but then everything just turned white and that didn't look nice. So yeah, but that's a good idea. I should have thought about that.
we also have a question coming in of how did you do the background? Is it one large sprite or a tiled pattern? I also like the shaky shader at the borders.
Yeah, so the background it's one tiled texture, and then it's using the parallax nodes in Godot to make it both be parallax, and I'm just animating or increasing the like texture offset to make it scroll.
I am doomed.
Indeed.
Yeah. Was it an intentional part of the challenge to not let me see where the other ships are on the map?
Yeah, guess I think many of the design decisions of the game came back to the initial idea was to have just a game about exploring. So I first had a game just about like you clicked on a star and you went there and you had limited fuel and these space stations where you refueled your like fuel. And then I sent it. That I had like done that prototype in like 2 hours, and then I sent it to a friend, and he compared it to like the FTL level select, or well, when you pick your path.
Yeah.
And then he said like, yeah, in that you have this whatever it is, but like a force that's coming after you and wants to chase you down, so you have to hurry a bit. And by him saying that, I was like, wait, what if I had enemies? What a revolutionary idea. And I was like, wait, this is gonna turn the game into something, because I was struggling to like, I had this prototype and it wasn't really fun because, well, it was just lame. But getting that idea was like, that made the game take a whole different turn. But like for a while the fuel system was still there, and the initial system I had of like, well, you have the circle and you can see what's inside the circle and you can move there, like that code and idea stayed. So even if it maybe would have worked better if like you could see the entire map, but at the same time it can also limit the like I guess event horizon, or what to call it. So the player can't like overplan and spend way too much time on stuff that very far away anyways.
Yeah, I can imagine like not to say things that these are necessarily good ideas. It's just when I see this, I think of one, having some sort of variant on the game where you can literally like maybe even if you like visit some nodes, it only shows you the nodes that are adjacent to it, like there's like space dust or something in the way, you can't see out past it. And then the other idea that came to mind was when you mentioned the idea of like refueling, having some way that, and I know that you said like you kind of didn't want to do power-ups or something that like cluttered the UI, but having the ability to make a decision to make 2 moves in the space of when other ships can only move once, like getting some kind of boost that way.
Yeah, if I end up doing like some power-up-ish, then it would be like a special kind of star that when you visit it, you gain it. And probably gain it and activate it immediately, because otherwise I would have to have some kind of UI. And yeah, I'm really happy with like the simplicity of everything. That's what I noticed too. Like I had this fuel system, and then there was this like little number below the player, and that was very ugly. And I was thinking like, okay, where do I move it to make it look prettier? Do I like make it into a kind of progress bar kind of thing? And then when I removed it, I was like, well, that's one less problem for me to deal with. So I'm really happy with this decision.
So when you touch one of the space stations, does it pull aggro on any ship like across the entire map, or is it just something that's near you?
All the ships of that color will get alerted, but they won't get aggroed on you. They will just go visit the station, and then, well, if they see you on the way there, they will aggro on you.
I see.
So,
okay.
So the aggro works like, well, if they are on a star adjacent to you, then they will start to actively chase after you. But if you just step on a station, they will just pathfind there, and then when they pathfind there, they will just continue to wander randomly like normal.
Yeah, so I guess I'm wondering if there's like I'm going down the idea of this sort of like power up routes, but having the ability to sort of create like an intentional beacon that like draws ships like you put down a beacon and then you move and it draws ships to the position that you were in instead of where you are now. I don't know what that does necessarily. It's just, I'm spouting off ideas as I see them, because I just, this seems like a very design rich space, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely want to like explore further things. The problem is that the jam I'm with it in the game jam for this is a kind of tournament thing.
Yeah.
So since this game moved on, then I'm moving on to round 2, and then the theming there is very, very strict. So even if like you're allowed to continue to spin off the same game, I can't really do that, because the theme for the next round has to be it has to include projectiles and animals, and I don't feel or I don't see a way to make this work, so I'm gonna make a new game, but that means I don't have the time to like polish this or like add new content to this, even if I want to. So that's one of the another game to the list of stuff I want to work on and maybe should work on sometimes, but probably will never finish. But yeah, I'm happy with the state the game is in now anyways. So that won't bother me too much, even if I do agree there's a lot of things you can do with this to make it better. But yeah, we'll see about that.
If you wanted to staple animals to this game, which sounds terrible when I say it that way, but you could make it something like you are visiting star systems to gather animals, but the animals that you gather have a limited lifespan, so you have to like gather them and then make a quick, like you then have to take a like particular optimal path to grab the next one. Something like that. I don't know. It's
yeah, like I know that it's possible to do. It's like I just don't want to ruin the game design.
I
because
know.
Because of a theme. Yeah. See, but the thing you said about like a beam of beacon or something, I could think that could work. It could be like a special node that you walk on, and then 4 rounds or 4 turns after that it activates. You could do something like that. Because I think like the strategy of going to stations to then quickly move away works kind of, as at least on larger maps. And I think that's a like fun strategy that's possible. And yeah, so there's definitely room for like extra special abilities of stars and stuff.
The other way that I could imagine the like adding another sort of tactical layer to something that is both a power up and something like the animal mechanic that I suggested is if you had a power up that lets you create a wormhole from like one spot to another. And that way, if you end up in a situation where like, oh, if I land on this tile and I collect an animal from here and I then need to get somewhere else and it's too far away, then you use this power up to create that shortcut for yourself. And you just have to be tactical about when you decide to deploy it. Again, I'm throwing these ideas out like so much spaghetti at the wall. And
I kind of the wormhole thing I've thought about a bit. But when you're talking about animals, it could be quite cool to have like the higher levels have a clear objective. So like, okay, you have to, or you could even really like spin the game on its head with them like, okay, in this level, the objective isn't to collect all the stars, but it's to like take these animals or like space fugitives or anything, and like, okay, so you have to transport them from this star to this star, and this one you have to transport from this star to this star without like getting seen at all or something. And then you have a whole different game, but you could still reuse all of the stuff and like really get a break from like the main game.
I'm so cornered. Look at this.
Ouch. Yeah. Fun fact, actually, it's the strength is toned down on levels 4 and up, but on the first 3 levels, the ship AI is rigged in the way that, like, if it's rigged in the way that 2 ships can't really corner you if they're just wandering around. They have to be actively chasing you for like being allowed to do that.
Got it. Yeah.
And there's still a bit of this system even on the later levels. So like if you're getting chased into a position where there's only one exit, and then another ship that isn't aware of you really just happens to like be strolling by, it won't pick a direction that would make you lose. Because that was something when I was playtesting it myself. I was like just going through levels and really feeling like this doesn't feel good, because it feels I was just unlucky and this ship shouldn't know of my location and like be able to do this. So I had to fix a system to make that not happen, because it was just really, really frustrating. And it's so funny because when I looked at like some other streaming playing, then they were at these like early levels and did some very risky plays, and he said like, oh, I was so lucky there, but I knew like, no, you weren't lucky, this was guaranteed to not happen.
Right.
And that was really like rewarding to see, because that made the flow of his much better, because he could just continue, otherwise he would maybe have died there.
I do love those moments where you like, people don't realize like it's actually very easy to create an AI that is just like completely dominates the game and hunts the player down. It's also very possible to make an AI that is like totally dumb and doesn't react to the player at all. What's really challenging and really rewarding when you get it right is to make something that has exactly the balance you're describing, where it gives the player this opportunity that like you feel clever for pulling it off, even if in the background you're kind of fudging the numbers a little bit. Hello, Brinoid.
Yeah.
Want to drop a link to this again. We are playing Project Spackle. By the way, how do you say your username? Because I saw
NitramiuZ. It comes from if you take Martin in reverse and then you add a IS. That's where it comes from.
Okay. NitramiuZ.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, because it's the kind of ambiguity of how you pronounce certain vowel sounds. Like I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be Nitra or Nitre or Nitr. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways you could say it.
The thing is like, this is totally because it was I who came up with the name.
Yeah.
Like I don't see how you would mess it up, but yeah, there's a lot of vowels and it makes sense. But NitramiuZ it is.
Well, especially with different it depends on what your language background is. You know, for me, English, I see vowels as being pronounced a certain way. I know enough about European languages that when I see a J, I know like, okay, that in a certain position that probably is pronounced as a Y. And other similar things, but yeah, I still will get thrown off. It's hard to avoid, but yeah. I would love if you had the opportunity to continue to work on this. Like I think that it's a very, very interesting concept. And you know, it's a very nice blend of something that is strategic but also casual, like especially with the sort of single input. You know, I would never advise somebody to make this a mobile game because I know that is just a waste of time. Like unless you are really into mobile game development and you want a future in mobile game development, but no, it
Yeah,
is.
no, I really don't. I
Yeah.
really don't want to
Yeah.
touch mobile. Although it does run in mobile on like browsers, so
Nice.
that's
Well, there
nice.
you go.
And I like fixed with the aspect ratio, so when you're on mobile, the circle will still like fill the entire width of the screen.
Awesome. So there you go. You can play it on mobile. You don't have to make a specific mobile port of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no, I got surrounded again.
Oh, yeah, like the later levels I haven't play tested much, like the difficulty, because I figured most people would, well, play until like level 4.
The end of the campaign. Yeah.
See it end exactly. But since I knew like some random person will find this nice and fun, so I think I got like the dialogue for like clearing around. I think I've got up to like round 10 or something.
Oh wow. So
Yeah.
wait, okay, you said you haven't tested it much, but what is the furthest that you've made it in the game?
Probably 6. I don't think I've played further than where we are now.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, it's since the levels are randomly generated, I had to put so much time into making that system work. Like in the beginning when starting out the game, I was like, well, I don't want to place a bunch of stars manually and having to connect them, so something that randomly generates it should be like, it shouldn't be that hard, and like it shouldn't be like the level of like control or like difference in different level designs wouldn't be that large anyways. So I just kind of want the layout, make it work. But then I like, as I started to do the random generation, I realized how many edge cases there were to like handle, and making sure that like you get enough connections and you don't like get a long single line, because that's very difficult to move toward to. And it's a lot of stuff, and also like making sure that the connections aren't overlapping, and it feels like half of this game's code base is just the level generation.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to like know a little bit more about like how does this work? Like, is it could you talk a little bit about how like the level generation algorithm actually works?
Yeah, sure. So I start by just kind of walking through a circle from the like inside out, and then placing stars at like consistent angles, but not all angles. So basically stepping through and have more dots further out and so on. So then I have a bunch of stars, and then we loop through all stars, connecting like stars that are close by to each other. So we get the connections, but then we will get a bunch of like basically one star connecting to like 5 different others, and all of those 5 different stars are connecting to each other again. So it's like doesn't really mean anything. So then we run through an iteration of like, okay, for every star, check its connections, and if I am connected to a star that's also connected to another star I'm connected to, then there's a slight chance of like just removing that connection to not get the. I see you're trying to draw up how this works.
Well, sort of. I want to make sure I'm understanding how you went about it. So like you're saying that you sort of make initial connections for things that are nearby, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a chance that something might get sort of like you might erase a connection between things.
Yeah, exactly. So like that connection you just erased could have been possible to erase. But also, if this drawing was more realistic, then
Yeah.
the stars would be a bit closer to each other, and they would have like more connections just everywhere.
Right.
It's honestly kind of bad, the initial state of this. And then also, what would happen is that you would have. Honestly, it would be easier if just I drew this.
Sure.
Can I screen share?
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's get pained up. Let's see.
Because I'm kind of surprised from the initial way that you created it. I'll open that in a second. But hello, Bartmoon. How are you doing? Watch stream and pop out and full screen. Here we go. I was surprised that you didn't create just like a graph and then kind of wobble the positions of it around a little.
I do wobble the positions. That's the next step.
Okay.
I haven't come to that part yet. Wait, what is happening with my paint? Hello? Why is it not? What?
Do you need to select white on your left click so that you can actually draw, or is it just you don't have focus on it?
No, like the window is bugged. Oh wait, what? Right. For some reason, my entire computer lags when I screen share. It's really odd. But now, let's see. I can even use my pen, I think. Maybe. No. Wait. This setup is...
Little scuffed.
Okay, there we go. This works. This works. Okay, so... yeah, so the initial... we just have these stars.
Yeah.
We connect them. And then we're gonna have like, let's see if I can zoom in a bit. And then we're gonna have connections. What will happen too is we will get connections that are like this.
Yeah.
And we don't want that. So, and also we will get like a star that's here, that's really close to another one and such. So when we got this and we have cleared like most of the extra connections, we will get something like this. Well, much bigger, but like this.
Yeah.
What we will do then is, I have a function that's basically like relax positions or something, and we run it in multiple iterations. And what it does is like it checks its neighbors and its neighbors' neighbors, and just like try to optimize the lengths so that they are more optimal. And then also it will detect situations like this where it's a line that goes over another. So what will happen is this star will notice that it's close to this edge center.
Interesting.
And that will mean it will try, because there could also be the situation where let's say we have a star that is like this. So this is not optimal because it's very tight in here. We would rather have that be over here. So one thing it can do in this kind of situation where it feels it's too close to the edge is just jump over to the other side, and then we will have these connections instead. But I don't really remember all of the conditions, but there are a certain set of conditions that it goes through, and one of them is like if this doesn't work, because if it's like too close to the edge, it can't really jump over the same way and such. It may also just erase this extra connection completely. And so it's a combination of like removing connections that it feels are unnecessary, moving things around, relaxing, and then we have like the basic connection and mesh. Then it also has to place the player and the stations and the enemy ships. So we will have even more stars. So first, it's let's see. First, it places the player, I think.
Does it try to place the player towards the middle of the constellation, or?
Yeah, it tries to place it in the middle. So let's say it places it here. and then we're going to place the stations. And let's see. That's mostly. I think that's. Oh wait, it actually places the stations first, and then it places the player, and it makes sure the player doesn't spawn on a station.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we have the stations, and then we have the player, and then we want to place the enemies. And here it makes sure that because a situation can happen where like this is a red station, this is a red station, then we do not want to place a yellow enemy
in a way that it would be trapped.
Exactly, because it would be trapped. So the way I do it, I keep basically a map of this is all the stars that are accessible to the red ship. This is all the stars that are accessible to the yellow and so on, based on the player's position. So what also happens is like, okay, so if the player is here, then all the ships that spawn must be in like the same continent, so to say, as the player.
Yeah, I see.
From their perspective. Just so we can't end up with this. And a red ship would be allowed to spawn here.
Yeah, it makes sense that you are mapping it from the player's position outward. Yeah. That way you're ensuring that there's always at least one valid path to get to the player. And you can sort of assume that the ship can then explore more of the map based on that.
Yeah. Also, we make sure that this the space around the player that is accessible by all factions needs to be a certain size. If it isn't a certain size, then we will replace all the stations. Something I've managed to do, which was probably a bad idea because it took way more time, is that the map generation never reruns. So there's never a situation where it's like, okay, this is so messed up, we need to just throw this garbage and make it start from scratch.
Yeah.
Because what also can happen is like when you generate the star field in the first step, you get like some stars out here that are connected, but they aren't connected to the rest. And instead, because this happens like really rarely, this is like maybe 1 in 10. So instead of like, okay, this happened, because it's very easy to detect, instead of saying like, okay, this happened, we just redo it, then we will find like, okay, we find the center of this constellation, we find the center of this constellation, then we run through all the stars here, find the closest star, connect them, and like it's just so over-engineered, this system, but it works. So I'm happy.
It's fun because I can picture there being some sort of like purely mathematical way of generating this in terms of like a graph tree theory sort of way, and then just kind of nudging the positions around to make it look organic. But I like that you've gone, this is probably the same way I would have approached this, honestly. I like that you've gone with an approach that generates a very like organic star field, and then you make the connections, and then if there's like, as you mentioned, these connections that are, or these like clumps of these constellations that are not connected to the rest of the star field, then you are using these like center point and distance checks to sort of stitch them back together.
Yeah. And I've also like when placing the ships, we make sure that they aren't placed like within 2 stars of the players.
Right.
So it can't be placed here, it can't be placed here. It would have to be like here, it can spawn.
Yeah.
And just to ensure that you aren't insta-killed.
So then
there's been some generations that are like close to wait, is this even possible to escape from this like initial position? Right. But it was very close one time and I was scared, but it turned out you could escape. So because I also have things like the player can't spawn on a star that has 1 connection to it. It has to have at least 2. So there's a bunch of checks everywhere, and in the end it works rather well. I think most of the people I have said like, oh, by the way, this is randomly generated, they haven't really thought of that. They didn't think it was. And then because I have like the parameters, so I can make the levels bigger and have more ships as you go. There's still like there's limits on stuff. And I also have like on the first levels, there isn't allowed to be any dead ends. So if it finds a dead end, it will connect it, just because on the first level there's no way to like shake the ships off you, so you don't really want a dead end on that level.
Right, because you only introduce the mechanic of the space stations in a later level, so you have no way of shaking the ships.
Yeah, also because on the first level there's one red ship and like 1-2 red stations, and you can't really shake the red ship off them because you have no other colors. So yeah, there's as I've said, it's definitely over-engineered, but I realized there was especially one level that it made that I was like, damn, this is actually like a good puzzle, because there was like there was this thing where let's see, I'll just clear this. There was this thing where it was shaped in a very special way. So we had like a bunch of stars here. Then we had like a single path that went like this. And then we had a bunch of stations here, a little loop here, and a little tail there. And what happened is the stations was placed in a way that made it so there was a yellow station here. And then there was a bunch of other stations here of other colors.
Yeah.
So the yellow ship could like only go to here by this kind of way.
Right.
Which meant that if you wanted to take this, you kind of had to go through this direction, because otherwise you would go here, the yellow ship would get alerted, and then you would have to turn back. And there were more of these kind of situations in the same map. So it was very, very puzzle-like. And it made me contemplate, like, what if I actually had made handcrafted levels that could all be of this, like, very interesting puzzle quality. And I also had the idea, like, what if I had made levels where each level was like a different constellation, like from the real sky, because that would also have been like very interesting and pretty. But yeah, in the end, I had at that point already made my overly complicated procedural generation system, so I didn't really want to throw it out.
Right. Well, hey, there's another way that you could add animals to the game, is you could take animal constellations like Ursa Major and just have like that's the map that you play on.
Damn, yeah. Yeah, I've been struggling to like come up with the idea for the next round of this game, Jan, because like I made this for the first round, and this is like the of my lists of like favorite games I've made, this is first place contender, right up there with I Overscoped.
You know, I was looking at the list of games that you've made. Like, you've made so many Game Jam games, and I think I don't even remember playing the Lizard Problem. Like, I remember it being like in the list of submissions, or maybe you posted it on the Discord and I didn't actually get around to playing it. But I know
it was. Let's see.
I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah. Okay, so I definitely did play I Overscoped, and that ended up being one of the like top submissions, right? In that.
Yeah, it was
year.
number one.
Yeah, awesome.
It's kind of a shame I didn't like, because with this is the sad part with the Lizard Problem. I was like, okay, I feel this game is it feels good. I want to like take advantage of like the jam players, so I put up a Steam page like in the first week. So the plan was to have the Steam page up before the results came in, because like if I placed high, then I would get traffic. I want Steam wishlist, and it was close. Placed 109th, but not enough to like get into the top 100 to have a chance to like really be showed. So that was sad, and like in retrospect, I'm kind of bummed out that I didn't take that that I didn't have that mindset when I did I Overscope, because then I would definitely have a lot of wish lists on that game, but I haven't, and I want to make a full game out of it. But the problem is that, well, I am overscoping, I overscoped and want to make it into a huge kind of project, and that would take way too much time, and I don't have that time to like put into it right now. So it will be my dream game, the game that I want to make in the future sometime. I did some experiments with the where to take it in the beginning of this summer, where I had like a new kind of mechanic where you could basically build a level by like pushing blocks around. You had like a little tiny level editor where you dragged blocks around, kind of like that game where you the red brick and you have to get it out of like the wall, and you have to shovel bricks around, kind of like that. I had for like creating a level. And that was cool. I like that experiment, but like I want to make I Overscoped in this kind of really huge game with like actually kind of deep story, and like I want the game to take place in an apartment. So like while after you've played for a bit, you like the camera zooms out and you are in this black and white styled apartment, like this same kind of pixel style but in a 3D environment. So you're basically logging out, you're logging onto your computer each day to chat with this developer and helping him make this game. And then like there's gonna be a plot twist about like who he really is. And yeah, I've got a bunch of ideas, but it's like it's so huge, so I don't even want to think about tackling it, because like even with the lizard problem, like the goal of like getting the Steam up for that would be to like, I could finish it like within a year and just like have another game on Steam. But yeah, the progress on that has been pretty slow. My goal was first to like be part of this Steam Next Fest that is like almost now.
You have to submit so far in advance, right?
Yeah, and I'm not even close to having like something that's worthy of a proper Steam demo, which is sad. But my goal is to get it to the summer Next Fest, and hopefully I will like get it done and published as early access on the 15th of August this year, because I put like the release date in Steam to the same day as Mazes and Dice's release, because funny. But we'll see how it goes.
So the when you're releasing these games on Steam, can you talk a little bit more? And I'm sorry if we've talked about this already, but can you talk a little bit more about like what your objective is there?
Well, so with the Mazes and Dice's release, it was only to like have something on Steam. I wanted to have released something, and like it turned out pretty well. Not many people played it, but if you don't count my time, I still made a profit from it. That says I re-earned $100 I put into buying the.
That
not
is
much more though.
That is very dangerous. The if I don't count my time.
yeah. But yeah, like I've got that game out of Steam. That was the goal. For the lizard problem, the goal is kind of to like get something bigger. But the problem is I feel like I have to get a bit more effort put into the game before I really can like try to, because we'll see if I like try to get a publisher. I had some random person from like some random company asking like what my plan is with the game and like if they can help, and they ended up giving me like a PDF of 12 pages of just like pure feedback, which was very welcome. I don't understand why, but I just got like free feedback, a 12 page PDF. Like it was awesome. But yeah, we'll see. Like I did have a lot of ideas for this game. I realized now I have to like down scope. I had some like, whoa, what if I make it multiplayer? Yay! Yeah. No, The problem is I'm trying. Also here, I'm trying to like kind of figure out what the game is really like. Is it well, it's a tower defense that I know, but then like I have this like tutorial character that is like the bird's mom that like tells you how the game works a bit, and also a bit of lore. Actually, very very similar to how the like boss CEO is in the Project Spackle. It's actually the same dialogue code. And many people like in the comments said that they really liked that like interaction. So I start to think like, what if the towers themselves can like speak and be like, I demand a raise, or like I really like this other tower. Can you move us together? And like that could be a way to like merge the tower defense genre with something entirely different. But in the end, I think I don't know if I would appreciate that kind of game. Or like I would like it, but the problem is, since I'm making it kind of a roguelike, the story plus roguelike, it's hard to do because then things would get repetitive and so on. But we'll see.
Yeah, I know what you mean in terms of like when you're creating something that is procedural, it's very difficult to make that also be a compelling narrative, just by nature of the fact that like all the interactions are random, and like at best you end up with a situation that feels really interesting and dynamic the very first time you play it, and then some of that magic kind of wears off the moment you see an interaction repeated, like on a subsequent playthrough. It's like, oh, it's
and like you can do stuff to kind of mitigate that, but in the end you're not gonna come away from it. It's impossible. It will just take more time, and then it's often better to just like make one story good instead of making 100 stories kind of fit together. So yeah, right now with the development, I'm like I'm trying out like making the tiles smaller because I want to fit more stuff and like have more interesting towers. I've recently added a tower that's like a hedgehog that is like the pink tracks shooter in balloons, like sprays in all directions. And I'm trying a bunch of stuff, but like the development is really slow because I don't know. I do have time. Like I've played 280 hours of Deadlock in the past half year, and like I am sometimes pondering like, what if I put that time into developing the game? Well, then I would be able to publish like for the next fest and such. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes, because I want to finish it,
of course,
and I kind of the thing is, the good part about getting the Steam page is I feel very much like obliged to finish it, because otherwise, well, I put like $100 into the ocean basically.
Yeah, but okay, a couple of things I want to comment on really quickly. First of all, kind of going backwards order here, just because you made the Steam page, like I know they don't make it easy, but you can change it into something else. You know what? I don't know if it's a published Steam page. I don't know if you can. I know that I had an app credit, like, because the game that I made with Benjamin for the most recent GMTK game, Hammer Hex, this, I made a Steam page for it, like, as quick as possible, and I was trying to do the same thing that you're describing, hoping that we could get some wish lists. And we also didn't quite crack the top 100, what do we get? Like 100 and, no, where do we see the results?
136.
Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, so we were also like close to top 100, but the Steam page that I made for this was based on an app credit that I already had, and I was able to change it over to this. It might be the case that now, since it's published, I might not be able to change it again. But,
would make sense. It feels like, because wouldn't that mean like if you had
People had
wishlisted a
wishlisted
game,
it,
you would
yeah.
still.
That's why I'm thinking
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
like if there was just some way to delete the Steam page but keep the app credit, that's probably fine. Because as far as Steam is concerned, you have paid them, and you're just saying like, never mind with this project, we're gonna make a new game. Maybe I'd have to look through the documentation, but at the end of the day,
wait. I know how it is. Okay, hear me out.
Mhm.
You can put up the Steam page.
Yeah.
You can publish the Steam page. But hold on. You can get the refund if you do it within 2 weeks, and people have looked at the trailer for less than 2 hours.
I see.
Then you can get the refund. I'm sure.
Well, the other thing I was gonna say is just don't let a $100 purchase dictate the course of your life. It sounds like doesn't even need to be said, but at the same time, like, it's a sunk cost fallacy, right? Don't if it's something that you want to make, that you believe in, then you can decide, like, based on other factors, if your lifestyle allows for you to put the time into it. But don't, like, because I have also, like, really carefully analyzed my time. I have looked at with everything that I do, I track my time in a big spreadsheet. So I track my hours for my day job. I track the amount of time that I spend on personal projects. I track the amount of time I spend on chores. I have a few different categories. And I also sort of took a look at, like, a sort of a week-long schedule. And I said, like, well, if you're putting 8 hours a day into your day job, then that leaves this much time. But, there's a bunch of that you have to spend that's asleep, and then you have to account for times you spend eating food, and you have to account for times that like living your life, like there are just things you have to do. And at the end of the day, like, you end up with, depending on how many obligations you have, like whether you live in a house or an apartment, or you're living with family or whatever, you might have like between 10 and 15 hours to spare. And that's it per week. And, some of that you have to spend just on yourself. Like, you can work on a passion project, but you will probably burn out unless you are taking breaks to, like, let your brain change gears and other things like that. So it's true that you have time to work on things. And, if you think about it, it's like, 10 hours a week, I could get to 520 hours into a project. That's a lot. Like, it's like, yeah, but it varies, like, to bring it all back around, the amount of time I spent working on this, like, custom start menu, hours. I spent so long working on this. That's time that I spent working on this that I didn't spend working on a game or something else.
Yeah.
Like, there was days that I couldn't work on that because I had to work on something in the apartment. I had to, like, resituate my desk. I had to, do something else that took my time away. So it is helpful to observe your schedule and think about, like, well, I do really like this game and I play it a lot, and maybe if I limited myself to, like, only playing 30 minutes a day, then I can play 30 minutes of this if I spend 30 minutes working on a game or something along those lines. I don't have a perfect solution here. I just know that it's worth trying different things. Like, everybody is motivated differently. Anyone who tries to tell you that, like, just do this and it will work. No, we are all wired differently. There's going to be different things that work for you than for other people. But the point is to keep trying. The point is to keep trying to, optimize your life. The unobserved life is not worth living, I believe is the quote. You want to keep sort of an eye on the course that your life is taking and thinking about, like, what can I do? Am I happy with the way things are, or what's my objective? What are the steps that I can take to get there? So sorry for the long kind of rant, and I want to say hello to Kale, who's hopped into chat here a little while ago. But yeah, I mean, these are all things that I've had to think of.
I definitely thought about like, okay, maybe I should like exactly what you said like, okay, maybe I shouldn't play Deadlock before I have spent 1 hour on my game and like that. But yeah, in the end, I never really tried to do that. Something I have realized though, with how like I work, is that funnily enough, like when I developed Masons and Dices, that was tied to like a school project, like kind of. I guess you could call it a like exam kind of thing, or like or anyways, tied to the school project.
Yeah.
So according to that, you should have spent like 100 hours on this project you chose, and then I chose to work on this, and then okay, so I thought I have 100 hours over the course of like almost a year, not really, but almost a year, and I calculated it to be 3 hours a week. So then I put up like I actually made like a website kind of tool to like just put up like blocks of like, okay, this time I should spend on this. That was one of the most productive things I ever done. That project was like the best thing for my productivity, at least for a little while. Because then I set up like, okay, 3 hours, that's 40 minutes times 3 plus 1 hour. And that's like how I put it up every week. So every week I would spend that time like 40 minutes there, 40 minutes there, 40 minutes there, and then an hour. And that way I did spend like 3 hours per week on this very consistently. I've checked this now recently, and it was very consistent, and well, I made a game. But I found out now that I did that entirely wrong. I shouldn't have put like those small kind of blocks, because I noticed like then that summer I wasn't quite finished with the game, but I wanted the Steam release like in the end of the summer. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna work a lot more on this now, and not gonna do full time, but I'm gonna do half time. So I said like 4 hours per day each weekday, so 20 hours a week. And I noticed like for the first every day I did more work than I did in like a week before, which was insane, because like, whoa, I'm getting so much done. But also I'm noticing, because like the entire year I was working this like 40 minutes every day, not really, but kind of.
Yeah.
I noticed like I was like, oh, I have to work on this. I started up Godot, started programming. 40 minutes went by. Like the first 20 minutes felt like torture. Then I started kind of getting into it, and then well, the 40 minutes are up, and I'm like, great, now I can do other stuff. But what I noticed, like my motivation strikes, like it takes some time.
Yeah.
So what I've noticed now when I'm developing Lizard Problem is that, okay, I'm kind of aiming for still getting these kind of 3 hours per week. It's not much, but at least it's something.
Yeah.
But I've noticed like it's actually way more fun if I just kind of, okay, wait, I should do this, and then I Swedish word slipped in there, and then I just like take the 3 hours in a row on a evening, and it feels more fun. I can get, because then I can feel like, okay, today I actually made this feature. Like when I added this kind of new tower, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make this new tower. Then I made it. It took like 2-3 hours something, and then I could feel like, okay, I actually made this today. I didn't make half of the system. I actually made visible progress, and that feels better, and it's more fun because, well, my motivation is higher when I've actually worked on it for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really important thing to understand about yourself. And like, as much as I say that there's no universal truths when it comes to this kind of thing, I think it a very commonly held experience that there is a switching cost when it comes to like I'm working on this, whatever it is, like I'm working on my day job, and then I have to like stop working on that, and now I need to switch my brain over to working on this, my personal project, and I need to stop doing that because I need to go cook dinner now, and I need to, once that's done, then I need to go feed the cat, and there's all these like little distractions that can pull you away, and then by the time you sit down, if you only have those like small slivers of time, as you say, there's like the way I like to think about it is like you're loading the problem into your brain's RAM. Like it takes time. You have to like get yourself back into the mode of thinking about the project, and everything that pulls you away from that resets that. And there are just some days where you feel like you can't get into that headspace at all. It's difficult to force yourself into it, but I do think it makes much more sense to try, as you say, to like dedicate longer chunks of time to it. Oh, hello. Everyone say hello to Thea. But yeah, so I'm glad that that's something that you found that was working for you eventually, is that you were, and that honestly is one of the like most compelling things to me about game jams, when you can use them to just block out a weekend or a big chunk of time, and then just like get something done. It feels like absolutely crazy. It's like, what do you mean? Like I spent weeks chipping away at something, and then I just sat down and made a game in a weekend. Like what?
Yeah. Like that's you said that I have been part of many game jams because this summer, have you heard of Triam?
Yes.
Yeah. So I did 6 Triams in a row. So in 6 weeks I made 6 games. And that was a lot of fun. A lot of the time I went over the 3 hours. Some of were like 5, one were 9, but it was still like I could really. All of them was made more or less within a day, and it felt really great to like get more ideas out and like get feedback on them. And I think I really learned a lot about like game dev overall, like what ideas kind of work, what works together. And also speaking of the like, okay, block out a bigger section of time so you can focus on this. The project Spackle, so the deadline was 2 weeks. Yeah. I started on the game the 1st of January when the jam started, and I submitted it in a finished state on the like 8th. So I had 8 days. 8 days. And I like each day I checked like how many hours I've spent on it, and it turns out I spent in total 75 hours on this game in the span of 8 days.
Wow.
Very, very stable for very, very good timing. Very, very good time scheduling. And one day I spent 14 hours. The second day I spent 14 hours in a single day. But it was fun. I made progress.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I mean, if you are able to structure your life around that, like if you don't have to take time out to prepare meals, and you're able to sort of set other obligations aside, then it's really nice to be able to do that. I'm glad that you were able to spend that much time on this. Like overall, it really shows. Like the time that you put into this, it very clearly translates to like it's a very polished experience in the end. I'm still kind of clicking away on this level 6. I think I was like 1 spot away from winning at the end, and then I wasn't sure if it was the last spot, so I didn't want to take a chance on losing, and then I just threw it away by getting cornered.
Yeah, you can if there's 3 or less stars left, you will see like arrows in the corner indicating where they are if they're out of screen.
Oh no!
Oh yeah, you're cornered again. No.
Oh well. But I did want to get back to an earlier question, and like that's why I was asking, like, what is your objective with releasing the lizard problem on Steam? And if your objective is to, turn these game jam projects into things that you can sell, and then you want those to be able to like support you financially so that you can work on more games. This is what, like, I think a lot of solo indie hobby devs aspire to. There are very specific avenues you can pursue to, like, if you want to try to get a publisher, if you want to there's this gulf between what you might want to make and what a publisher considers worth investing in. There's actually a very good podcast that I wanted to put a general recommendation for. I want to make sure I get the name of it right. It's this one called Gamecraft. Oh yeah, the picture is mirrored, but okay. Let me just pull it up on the computer screen. Gamecraft Mitch Lasky. Here we go. Gamecraft pod. I'll put the link in the description here, or the Twitch chat. The reason I recommend this one is because I have tried listening to a whole bunch of different like game business podcasts because I'm interested in that sort of thing. But by and large, I find that it's a lot of people who talk about it in a vague general sense, and I never got the impression that these people, to put it bluntly, knew what they were talking about. It felt like a lot of people just echoing the same information. It didn't feel genuine. This the primary host, Mitch Lasky, he's been a investor in the games industry. He's got his he's earned his stripes. He's really knows his stuff, and he's able to like talk through it and explain things in very good detail from the sort of like business side of things. So I would really highly recommend checking this podcast out if you are interested in that sort of thing. The whole idea of approaching a publisher for something like you probably have to pitch your game in such a way that it is like taking advantage of a popular trend. You have to make sure that the game that you are pitching to a specific publisher aligns with other games in their portfolio. And one thing that I even did, it's funny because I also had a okay, hang on, sorry, Rock Fortress. I'm just trying to pull up another game that I released on Steam, and I'm really glad that I did this because I was working on a game that is also a tower defense game. Oh. And I put it up on Steam, and I put it into early access because I had all of these grand ideas for what this game could be, and I thought it was a lot of fun to play. And when people tried it, they thought like, "Oh, this is fun. Yeah, this is cool." But then I put it into early access, and I got like next to no interest in the game. Like it wasn't. And this is also my fault for not knowing how to market it. The fundamental problem with this game is it is a tower defense, but it is also real time. And that means that everyone who's a fan of tower defense hates it because it's real time, and everyone who's a fan of real time strategy hates it because it's a tower defense. Like I somehow managed to take this like fusion of genres and make something that no one wanted to play, which was a damn shame because if I just marketed this as like a arcade action game, it would have been more interesting to people, I think. I don't know. That's not a problem that I could solve, but I was really glad that I put it into early access and saw like, oh wow, no one cares about this. I should not spend so much of my life, many like months working on something that is no one's gonna be interested in. So after a like much more protracted early access period, I released the game with, a pretty small amount of content, but it's a like what, $5 US or even less, I don't know, somewhere around there. So I felt like I was releasing the game with an amount of content that was appropriate for the cost that I'd set it out for, and this way it was a viability reality check for me. So I don't know if that makes sense for the lizard problem.
I think something I was thinking about earlier when you talked about the, like, well, don't let $100 dictate your life.
Yeah.
Was that I think if I end up feeling like, okay, I don't want to work on this anymore, it's not really working out, what I'll probably do, because this is something I've been thinking about earlier too, is that what I'll probably do is just like, okay, take what I have, polish it up so it's something, and then just release it for free.
Yeah.
Because like having a free game on Steam, I think it can actually be quite valuable because you will get more downloads that way, and still like you will see if there is any interest in it, and you can do like cross marketing in the future and stuff like that. But yeah, we'll see. I have so many things I need to figure out and like think about before I make any more decisions. But something I have been thinking about a lot, especially like when I did the triumphs and stuff, is like I feel like a lot of people are saying, and this is probably something you've heard in all that like echo chambery podcast stuff, is that like people say, oh, don't make your dream game your first game, and well, that's kind of obvious because well, you won't be experienced enough to make it, and you did it. You did it. I think this is a like world record because I don't think anybody has like had the energy to play for this long. But yeah, but what I'm thinking of like that, but turning it on the extreme in like trying to make more smaller games. Then well, in the end, these games are still taking like way too long to make because I'm not putting enough hours into it like every week, even if I could, because I'm playing Deadlock instead. So I'm trying to make like more games instead, but we'll see how it goes because they're still taking a lot of time.
I thought of that approach as well. I also had this problem of like, wow, I have so many different ideas of things I could make. I wonder like which one should I try to do? Maybe I should try to make like a bunch of different jam games and like see. And it's funny because there's some stuff that I put out in this video that like I know it made sense to me at the time, but I definitely didn't follow through on it. Like I didn't start making all these different games. You know, I was gonna say like, oh, I'll spend a month working on each of these, and then I'll see which one I like best. But like, in the end, I kind of overwhelmed myself with the scope of it, and I didn't pay attention to like, well, which one of these do I want to make the most? And it's hard, if not impossible, to come to a decision on that. Like, sometimes you just have the feeling of like, oh, I like these all for different reasons. And then you can sort of think to yourself like, okay, well, which one of these has the best market viability? I guess like maybe I should focus on that. Yeah, there's, I think that it's a quote that I really like from Adam Savage of Mythbusters fame. He said, "There's no formula for success. There's a formula for failure, and it's thinking you know the formula for success." So I'm, you know, I am relaying some of the experiences that I've gone through in terms of not to say, oh, here's the answer, but it's to say, here's something that I tried and it wasn't the answer for me. It might be for you. It might not be, but it is something to consider.
Yeah, I've definitely put more focus in like thinking of marketing for the lizard problem than I did in Mazes and Dices. Also because I think like when I made Mazes and Dices for like the jam first, I was like, oh, this is kind of fun, unique idea. I should try make this into something. And then I put a lot of time and made the Steam release, and nobody played it. Probably because I didn't do any marketing really. But at the same time, the game isn't that. It isn't as unique as I like first thought it was. Because in the end of the day, it's a dungeon crawling roguelike. Well, sure, it has dices in it and like these. Wow, the units move in different ways, and you have to learn their patterns. It has been done before, not exactly this combo, but most of it, people will be like, yeah, well, this is kind of like this game. I should just play that game instead because it's better.
Yes.
And I know like Jonas Tyroller has said this, that like your marketing isn't the issue, it's the game mostly. Like, because, well, it's impossible to market a bad game, I guess. So like when I wrote the Steam description and everything for the lizard problem, I'm like, I'm really, so like I have a clearer view of like what I want to market this as. And I may end up in the very same situation as you did with that tower defense real-time hybrid that nobody wanted to play. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do like a tower defense that places a few twists on things, like the map is changing in the game, so you may have this like, because one thing in a typical tower defense is like you build this perfect path and then all the enemies go through these and they all die. But I have this earthquake that like breaks the map into halves and adds new stuff, so you like, well, you have to change and adapt your plan. And I'm trying to like really put a focus on this in the marketing. It's like a dynamic tower defense, and so it's like, and I'm thinking about like, when I'm thinking like, okay, should I add upgrades? Then I'm thinking like, wait, this isn't a normal tower defense. Maybe instead of adding upgrades, I could add like towers that you place at the side of them to like give them new powers, and like do just try to not make things as all the other games do just because that's what the other games do, but do things as the other games do if it's actually fitting for the game. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been trying to think about while designing the game at all steps, and I'm hoping that in the end that will make it into something that is actually like something different. And well, that's everyone's goal with making a game. But yeah, we'll see how it checks us out. I see you're just building shells.
Well,
that's
a
strategy.
I wanted to see if it was possible to just sort of like completely wall them off from the ending, but I also need to wrap things up here because I need to go make dinner. But it's been a really cool conversation. I'm glad we've had a chance to sort of talk through things, and as you are kind of coming to a decision on like what do you want to make, I know it's so difficult now to like have something added to the stack, right? Like this project Spackle, I think this is really cool, and I hate to be saying like, oh, maybe you should try to make this game when you're already thinking about like, oh, but I was going to work on the lizard problem, and oh, I was also going to work on the I overscoped and so on, so on. Like, I understand how difficult it is to feel yourself pulled in all these different directions, and I think that some of that, and this is why I sort of keep coming back to like, if you're trying to make it as a solo developer and you're trying to like earn money from this, like earn a living so that you can just keep making more games, I think some amount of that, what game you make next, has to be shaped by outside interest. If you tried making a post on Reddit, did any of those go viral? If you try to like get this game in front of people, which one of them is the easiest for people to look at it and see it in a screenshot or a GIF, and it makes them interested to play it. Because I think that a lot of what you were describing about I overscoped is going to be very difficult to convey in a screenshot.
Yeah, definitely.
And you know, to an extent, like the lizard problem, I think is the easiest to understand. Like you look at it and you say like, oh, okay, tower defense and pieces of the continent breaking apart. Like it's easy to understand. Is it getting people to click through? You know, I hate living a life dictated by these these metrics. I would love to live in a world. It's like, can't I just make a good game and then people will want to play it? It's like, well, you know, we'd love to, but that's just not the world we live in. Not yet, at least. Who knows? Maybe there will be some sort of like perfect algorithm that curates things, and you just make your game and you put it into this thing, and then it says like, oh yes, let me put this right in front of all these people who want to play it, and then they buy it, and here's the money. And you know, I would love to live in a future like that. And who knows? Maybe that's something we get with AI someday. I don't know.
We need a stock for games.
Something like that. I mean, I don't know. I've never been on top of social media or following trends or any of these kind of things. So I am, you know, going back to an analogy I made earlier. I'm throwing so many ideas at the wall like spaghetti, and I haven't made it. You know, I'm not a like self-employed. I'm working for an external company. You know, so I don't want to be giving an advice on how you should be proceeding, because it's not like I have the answer. You know, I do not have any formula for success here, but there is definitely things that if I were in a position to, you know, if I ended up in some position where like I lost my job or something, there are certain things that I would be trying. So I guess that's a little bit of what I'm trying to share right now, but I really do need to wrap up for today. If you'd like to come back and talk a little bit more about this game, or whichever, if you do sort of participate in the next round of the jam and you'd like me to take a look at that, you know, we can always talk more then. But yeah, thanks so much for being up for like having this really long and interesting conversation. And I hope that there's been some interesting insight, both in terms of like this game and where you take it, and also just your game development journey as a whole.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like I've been part of the podcast here.
Yeah.
It was great. It was really great. I've got some new like, it's been fun. And thanks for all the feedback and not really, or I guess you could kind of call it life advice, but then you're gonna say like, oh, don't listen to me, pick your own path. But yeah, so thanks for that, and this has been really fun.
Awesome. All right, well, Martin, thank you so much once again. Wish you all the best, and yeah, hopefully we'll have another cool conversation like this sometime soon.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Bye for now.